Howdy everybody, this is Alan White here for AHMA Martial Arts, and this is our ongoing video class series. So I'm here today with Chris. Chris, slide on over, say hello.
Hello.
Now what is your official title? Did he call you Kwanjin Chris?
I'm Busabanam Chris, so that
Busabanam.
means I have a second-degree black belt at AHMA.
Awesome. Wow, that's really cool. Someday I hope to have a black belt myself. That would be really cool, and your example is awesome. So today, because all of you are out at tournaments or not around or whatever, we're just gonna spend some time here at my studio here at Louis Plow, and we'll probably cover some of the basics. And we're going to use Chelsea Weigel's project as an example. And if we can, we might pull in some footage from Chris's phone here. We just the other guys were over there. He just broke some bricks. It'd be really cool to get that in there too. But we'll see what we've got. Okay, so to start. What you're looking at here is my video editor. This is Final Cut 10, and Final Cut 10 runs on Macs. But the fundamentals of editing are pretty much it works pretty much the same way with all video editors. I mean, there's obviously a lot of differences between different programs, but in general, you know, you've got we did it on the whiteboard last time. You know, you've got a clip, you've got audio, you've got clips that overlap each other. You might have graphics or still images and things like that. And so if you have the Mac, I highly recommend Final Cut 10. Final Cut 7 is also good, and so is iMovie. It's not bad. If you're on Windows, I personally really like Sony Vegas. It's very underrated, very fast, very affordable as well. Premiere Pro Elements, or there's Premiere Elements and Premiere Pro. Those are from Adobe. That's sort of the Elements is the low end, and Premiere Pro is the high end, a little more expensive. But they all, again, fundamentally do the same thing. There's also a lot of really great iPad and iPhone apps for editing. That market's pretty immature, and I haven't really seen like a true winner in that category. But as far as I know, it is possible. Even just check out iMovie on your iPhone. That's probably worth doing. Really, the hardest part with those apps is getting footage in and out of your phone. And of your device, so that can be a bit of a challenge, but there are ways to do it. For the most part, I'm not going to get into this for this class. I really don't want to get into the specifics of the different editing platforms. I really need you guys to do that research and learning, and fortunately all that training and stuff is available online, I bet, for whatever tool you're using. So I'm not going to get into so much of that this class. I really just want to cover the fundamentals of filmmaking, the fundamentals of shooting, editing, things like that. So today we're going to talk about editing. All right, so right here you see Final Cut 10, and I'm going to I've got two screens open, and I'm going to kind of collapse them into one. Chelsea promo, cool. Now you see what these look like. These were shot in our studio in the next room. On a green screen. Now, I don't expect you guys to have access to a green screen. If you do want to shoot something that needs a green screen, come and talk to me, and maybe we can talk about getting you in the studio. I know Danny has some access to one as well. He's experimented with it. The principles of green screen, you've seen it all for you got the fake background behind you or the weatherman or whatever. The fundamentals of green screen are pretty simple. The art of it, though, is something entirely different. It's like reading about martial arts and actually doing it. It's a little bit of a difference. But what you can see here is some stuff that we recorded for Chelsea. She's also got some voiceover here.
First is a nonprofit relief agency that provides aftercare.
Very cool. We've got that. Now, what in this particular case, what I've done is I had one long take or a bunch of long takes of Chelsea. And this is today's example, this is a particular kind of video. So this is not necessarily a story that's being told. Really, this is what we call a promo. So it's like a commercial. It's hey, here's a short video because I'm going to inform or tell you about something. And for Chelsea, this is her way to get her story across. She's trying to raise money to go to Indonesia to work with Compassion First to help women who are being sexually trafficked there, which is really admirable. So she's going to take her skills at AHMA and take those over there. So what we're seeing here is a bunch of takes, and you see these little blue lines. Well, these are essentially what we call subclips. Now, subclips, and the way Final Cut 10 works, it's a little different. You really don't make subclips. You can, but that's what most editing programs do. You kind of take a bigger piece of footage and then you chop little bits out of it, and then you make what you see down here on the timeline. You assemble, what we call assembly. But in this case, what it does is I just sort of grab a region and then I tag that. So what's cool about that is I can then, these are sort of like well, the technical term is metadata. I've added information about this stuff. I've added it to this pool of footage. So what you see here is everything, and then here's my alternate takes. Here's all the takes, although I didn't quite tag it all up, but here's the best takes. So these are the takes that I wanted. So what I did was I dragged those then on down to this timeline here. Okay. Now what you see, you'll notice, hey, that looks pretty cool. That doesn't look like the green screen clip that we saw. So let's. What I want to do is let's grab one. Come on, I gotta grab like this. I'm gonna stick it down here so you can see the difference here. So let's set this to fit. Okay, it's still going good. All right, so here we have Chelsea.
I would like to be a positive role model for the girls.
She wants to be a positive role model, so we're going to help her do that. All right, so first thing that a couple things in this case. First thing I want to do is I'm going to boost her audio a little bit. All right, basically what you're going to see here is I've already spent some time on this and doing what we call compositing. Compositing is when you put two images together to kind of blend them together to make them look good. I had Jeremy, how do you say it? Quanjin?
Quanjin, yes.
Quanjin, yes. I had Quanjin and Jeremy send me some photos of the gym, and so he sent over. Let's see, are they actually in the pool here? Yeah, he sent me over some photos. Here's a crisp one. I said, make me a crisp and a blurry one, and he actually took it into Photoshop and blurred it. What would have worked fine is just having the camera unfocused. If you're on a smartphone, obviously that's hard, but it's like if you have a DSLR, you know, this is what we did. So basically, I looked at the two and thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. I can make these work. So what I did was, as far as this particular video, the process is going to be, I'm trying to assemble these into a rough cut. Like I wanted to show Danny Sickens and Jeremy and Chelsea too. I wanted to show them a rough cut of like, hey, these are the good clips. What do you guys think? What needs to happen next? And things like that. So I haven't gotten that feedback yet, so we probably won't make a finished video today, but we could take it a little further and see what else we need to do to kind of make it work. Like for example, I made some notes like, hey, here's her title, so you see who she is, and I've also, oops, let's see, I'll put that there. Then I gave her a little subhead, a thing. We call that a lower third because it's on the lower third of the screen. And here's a few other shots, and then hey, I think we need some B-roll here. She should be talking. Let's see. I don't hear her talking. What is that about? I need to say... Yeah, what's going on there? That's interesting. Why isn't this... It's black. I'm not sure why it's black. Here, I'm going to pause. Okay, sorry, just needed to get my head around what was going on there. So what I'm going to do is show you the whole timeline. So what I did was, let me turn off that scrubbing, it's very annoying. So what I did was I assembled a few of Chelsea's clips here. And in this case, there's a section here where she's not looking at the camera, she was reading some script. This is what we call voiceover. We call it VO for short. So VO or voiceover. That's where it says CF B-roll. What that means is compassion first B-roll. Now there's two kinds of footage, and we covered this in class earlier. Two essential groups of footage. There's interviews and there's everything else. Now that's obviously a gross oversimplification, and there's other kinds. But for B-roll, what we mean is it's funny, these really old film things. When we say tape something, well, we don't even use tape anymore. We're talking about magnetic thing, or record something. Well, that used to be the record. That was this round disc that we don't have anymore. So we've inherited all these terms. So B-roll is one of those terms. So B-roll is basically everything that's not interviewed. So we're going to show some other stuff from another project here. And in a minute, I'll grab that and pull that in. Okay, so what I've done is I have a technique where, okay, I have a bunch of shots. Let me show you an example. Okay, what I was trying to say is we're trying to get to like a rough cut with an assembly edit. Now, one thing you'll notice, like if you're doing an interview, so today, hey, we're doing an interview, let's talk about interview. Here's all the clips that I kind of potentially want in this piece. Well, basically, let's say I just kind of throw them in here. Boom. Okay, well, if you'll notice, let's see, let me close this window, get a little more space. Got to watch those X's as they're killing us earlier. All right, you'll notice, like, hey, she's kind of all at the same angle. Now, like, she's kind of right at the same cropping, So one technique that I'll do is And you'll notice here is I've kind of zoomed her out and then zoomed her in, then zoomed her out a little bit, zoomed. Oh, hey, there's two of her. Where, Chelsea? That's what was going on. It was black before. Okay. So anyway, here we're back to the voiceover
Provides
again.
aftercare services.
That's it. So, but again, then the next clip, which you won't see her for this one. The next clip, you see her close. The next back. The next close. Now, the human mind, and then here's one where she's really close. Now, the human mind can handle. There's a really good book called, I think it's In the Blink of an Eye, by Walter Murch, who was a famous editor. He cut Jarhead and Apocalypse Now and The Conversation. So, back in the 70s, he was doing a lot of really, really great work. But he wrote a really good book on editing that I read when I was trying to learn the craft of editing. And he talks about how the edits work, like they make sense and they are harmonious to watch because of the way our mind works. Like our mind is totally comfortable with seeing a hard cut between two scenes. Like what's a little weird is when they're like the same. So like let's watch this.
And help improve their quality of life. I'm currently testing for my black belt.
So kind of weird, right? Now part of it is because the audio was different and we haven't trimmed these clips yet. But if you kind of see where if they're kind of the same distance, the same size, then it's a little awkward. It's kind of like, oh, why did that person's head just do this? You know what I mean? So like sometimes people will they'll put like a dissolve between two clips, and that doesn't even like this. Watch this.
Black belt.
Let's see here.
Out of the dojo and into the real world. My name is Chelsea White.
Didn't quite do it. Sorry. So I want you to see it here. Maybe it's still thinking about it.
My name is Chelsea Weigelt, and I'm 28 years old.
Yeah, anyway, it's still catching up. But basically, by blurring the two between, that's not an effective edit. So I'm kind of showing you what not to do. So what I did was, we mentioned earlier, back, close, back. That one's not as big of a difference. There's some. Let's see how that works.
Hi, Academy of Martial Arts. Over the last few years, I've learned some very valuable skills. And now it's time to take them out of the dojo and into the real world. Compassion first is...
we were working with Chelsea, trying to get her not to bite her lip, right? She does this little cute thing right at the end of her little speeches. She did so well. So you guys, give her some energy. Gotta give her some energy, for doing a good job. It's very difficult. If some of you saw the little promo that I shot of myself, like I'm a pretty seasoned speaker and trainer, and I've done a lot of debate and public speaking and things like that, but it's hard to get in front of a camera. Am I right? It's hard to get in front of a camera. Here, slide over here a little bit, Chris. Let's see, so you can get on the camera. There you go. And let's pause the recording for the phone call. Okay, so we keep interrupting ourselves, but that's kind of how class is going today. Okay, at any rate, so I covered. This is the sort of the technique of zooming in and out. Now, something I did, because this is green screen, if I was to just put a green screen all the way behind Chelsea, it's moving so fast. These new systems are really great. New software is wonderful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy a key. Actually, here I'll just show you how it works. I'm going to grab a filter called keying. Final Cut 10, and again, I don't know how many of you will have a Mac, but Final Cut 10's new keyer is awesome. Now, keyer is what it'll take that color, and it will essentially cut that color out, so it can show whatever's beneath it. So I'm going to grab that keyer, stick it on here, and as you can see, it's a little messed up. What's up with that? That's interesting. So we want to fix that. The way I'm going to fix that is rather than me dialing all the settings in. That's really interesting. She's ghost-like, Ghost Chelsea. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy the settings from another clip and paste it here. So now that should make it perfect. There she is, pretty good. But that's basically how the keyer works. You kind of see it here where you can, let's say, here's the mat. The mat is like the hole that we're making, basically, and you kind of see how you see how it moves with her. That's called a travel mat. And then here is the original. So here's composited, matte, and original. It does seem like magic, but there really isn't much up to it. They make it very easy is my point. Okay, so with her, you can see how I can do things like play with the edge distance, the spill level. That kind of takes some of the green tinge out of it, which is really important. And her fine hair, I thought about it, I would have had her do something else with her hair. It's very difficult to properly key hair. That's a tough job, and you can get some pretty high dollar solutions to do that. Here you can see the color that's actually being keyed. It's kind of fun to play around with that. You can kind of see how it affects. That's kind of cool. We can kind of make it a little bit better, or make it crazy, make her super transparent. Hey, we're keying parts of her face. But basically, we want to get in there and get that green. In fact, if I was to actually sample the color there, that's probably going to help it a little bit. Okay, and you can do all kinds of things. There's all kinds of tools, things like light wrapping and spill suppression. Spill is the green bit that kind of floats around. See, we're kind of crimping in. I want it to be darker. You can change the tint. See how we're giving her purple hair? It's more purple than ever. All right, lots of fun stuff. I don't want to get into keying too much today, but my point is that if I was to grab that setting and kind of go all the way out with all of her clips, okay, I just applied it. What you're gonna notice something. You're gonna go, oh, she's moving in and out, but the background does not move with her, so it automatically looks super fake. So you can kind of see here, even if I have a good edit between the two, snap, boom.
Over the last few years,
she's still there. So what I did was I chopped up the background and I had it move with her. So what I did was, and here you'll see in a second, I'm going to show you the transform stuff. You see the box around it. That's how big she is on the stage. It's like imagine it's sitting on a table. So you can see she's right there, and then the background. I'm going to zoom out here. See, the background's pretty big. So, but now, oh, look at it, it's a little smaller. So what I did was I zoomed the background in and out with her so that it looks like realistic shots. And this is, the thing is, like, even some of the basic editing tools like have this ability. Sony Vegas can do it, Premiere Elements probably can do it. Final Cut 10, can do this thing. All you have to do is scale the clip to kind of move with her. And I just did a really quick, rough job. I didn't spend a whole lot of time. I did some other things too, like what I also did was apply, let's see here, you can see here, right about there. What I also did was apply a Gaussian blur to it. See the blur? Let's zoom in to fit so you can kind of see what's going on. So because I wanted to soften that thing, that's something that, that's a photography technique that's important to think about. Your iPhone and some of these cheap cameras like a Flip or whatever, they have a very, very small sensor and a very, very small lens. That means that everything is going to be what we call hyperfocal. That means everything is in focus. So like stuff that's close and stuff that's back are going to look pretty much like that. That's not going to be much different. Now, if you get a DSLR or a nice high-end cam, they have a much larger aperture. That's a whole much larger lens, and so they have what we call a very shallow depth of field. So that means that the area that's sharp and the area that's blurry is very, very narrow. Like I have a wedding lens or it's a portrait lens, a 50 millimeter that is like, your nose is sharp and your eyes blurry. That's how shallow its depth of field is. And that can be a really cool technique. You can also leverage that in your shooting. Something we do, and if I ever get a chance to show you the studio, I'll show you how we do it. But when we're shooting an interview, we'll enhance this effect by moving the camera back away from the subject. Like the subject's here, instead of being right up on them, we're going to move it back and we're going to zoom in as much as we can. Optical zoom, not digital zoom. We're going to zoom in as much as we can so that the background gets blurrier because of the properties of the lens and things like that. But you can see how she really comes forward. She pops off the background by having us do this. So you can kind of see here where I've tweaked, and again I'm faking it. But this is if I had a high-end lens and I was shooting her at aim high. This is with good lighting. This is kind of what I would get. I also added a vignette. Here, it darkens the edges, and I also kind of darkened the whole thing a little bit. You can see how I did that. I just added a color, what we call a color grade. But basically, what I wanted to do was, that's a pretty busy background. It's really cool, and I liked it because it had the flags of the different martial arts countries out there, and I wanted it to feel like aim high, but at the same time, I wanted her to come forward. I wanted her to pop off the screen, and you can see because we lit her really well, and I'll show you the lighting setup if I can later, but we have a nice key light, which is the main light. It's got a big softbox on it, and then we have a secondary light, and then I had a hair light behind her, and then we lit the screen independently. So the screen's nice and smooth, but she's lit well. Now this technique is, and I'll talk about lighting for a second. Here's another piece called, it's a promo that I'm working on for Mike Mercer at Compassion First. So you can kind of see he's talking about his story in Indonesia. And
Mercy Corps was in country, and he did a supplemental assessment of trafficking.
So you can see I've got two camera angles, and I just had two cameras running at the same time. But you can see how he's lit. So he is lit with the same lighting that Chelsea is, only we had a black background instead of the green screen. So basically these lighting techniques and these interview techniques that we're talking about, these are the same for whatever kind of thing you're shooting. Now, if an interview is a part of your story that you're working on, you want to consider this. This could have been done in a coffee shop or outside or something like that. I've got lots of other interviews like that. I'm trying to think of one right now that's maybe done outside. But like if you look at this one here, here's some stuff we did for Go Glam. Compassion First did an event where they have a bunch of like hairstylists will come and make up all the girls and get them all looking really great. And so they volunteered their time. So this is a good example of kind of having that interview done out there. And I'll show you the finished product because it's kind of entertaining to look at. So back to Chelsea's thing. So basically the next step is, okay, I've kind of got a rough cut. The next thing is it needs a little music probably. We're going to need, it needs a little more work on it. I'm not going to do all that today because I want to cover some other editing techniques. I want to get back to our whole idea of using music and things like that. So let's actually look at something that's a more finished product. Let's look at, we got Go Glam, we got those. What else do I have? I have some other interviews that I've done. Those are not online. We have a bunch of other interviews. Here's an example. This is kind of interesting. Here's another example of a different background. Oh, and you can't see it because it's not online. Sorry. Never mind. But I don't know if you can see the thumbnail, but basically I keyed in kind of a modeled background. Here's one we did for Toby Mac. Let's see if it shows. This is kind of entertaining. Andrew Palau, who's Luis's son. I work for the Luis Palau Association. But Andrew and Toby Mac. Toby Mac just had an album go. I think #1. That's pretty popular.
Award charts and no.
So here I just threw some graphics in there.
Congratulations, Toby Mac, my brother. I on it, #1 on the Billboard charts.
So Andrew's just giving him a shout out because they're brothers-in-law. They married a pair of beautiful Jamaican sisters. And I pulled some graphics from the album and keyed that in the background, and it kind of made it fun. Threw some of Toby's music in there as well. Some of these other examples, you can see how I've got people keyed on white, and that looks really good too. The keyer we have is really, really good. Final Cut 10 is really, really doing a great job there. So let's look at the Go Glam promo that I did. Let's see. I don't know if I finished that one. That's one example. I think it's still online. Let's find out. By online, I mean, are the clips connected to the computer and can we, see it? Let's find out. There might be some stuff. It's been a while, so I haven't opened it. Now here's Bicky Lloyd, and I want to open it. Open it for me. Okay. So I'm gonna say, look at the whole timeline. Now you can see, hey, this looks a little more complicated. There's a lot more clips on here. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna turn on so you can kind of see. Let's turn the clip height down so you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so let's watch just a few seconds of it, and then I'll kind of break it down for you. Okay. So what I was handed was for Go Glam. I was kind of handed a big pile of footage from this event, and it was shot by someone who's not a professional shooter, so there was some good things and there were some bad things with the footage. What I was able to do was rescue enough of it to make it work. One thing that Final Cut 10 has, and I know I'm talking it up a lot, but I really like it, it has a really good stabilizer. So, and some of the other, actually iMovie has a great stabilizer if you have a Mac. Things like your phone and whatnot. They're probably not going to have tools that have stabilizers, but I bet Vegas and Premiere probably do. They probably got some. So now, if you remember last week when we talked about the sort of overall structure of an edit, where it's kind of like, hey, you've got your, interview or B-roll, you clip, and then maybe a little gap, where there's some other clips or you see something, but you have room for music, and you can see those right here. So if we zoom in here, here we go. I'm going to turn that off. That's getting really distracting. If you see this here, hey, here's a clip. Here's a little music gap, and then it comes up. And see these things we call rubber bands. They are the levels. And you see how it brings up the levels up and down just for that little section of time. Okay, and that kind of goes something like this. And so here we're gonna watch the intro, and then we'll get into it.
Beverly, Charlotte, Dorothy, Sydney, Casey, and I just participated in Go Glam, Go Glam, Go Glam, and Go Glam.
And I'm part of Go Glam Stop Traffic.
Hi, my name is Vicki Lloyd. I'm the Director of Events and Communications for Compassion First. Go Glam Stop Traffic is a Compassion First campaign to engage high school students and beauty industry professionals to help victims of child sexual trafficking. A Go Glam Stop Traffic event can be coordinated by anyone in any community and is built around the idea that every girl deserves to feel beautiful regardless of her financial situation.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Jacobs with Sabrina's Salon. It was really exciting helping Compassion First get girls out of sex trafficking in Indonesia, getting them a great start.
Okay. So what we just did was we watched that promo. Now I'm going to break that down for you. Some reasons why it's working. One is I found this, again, like I talked about it a little bit with why music matters. And we talked about different kind of, one word I use is tone and style. What's the feeling of this music? Now the feeling that I wanted to communicate, this is a promo about a fun event, but it's to help girls in a really sad situation, girls that are being trafficked and that are essentially slaves and having to do things that they don't want to do and that's bad for them. And so that, if you think about it, that sucks. and that's a really depressing topic. But I wanted to communicate hope and a positive energy that there and like solutions. Like I wanted the people to see this not only to feel something, sorry, I was getting a little emotional because I have two daughters and this subject's really close to me, but I love what Compassion First does. They really are doing some constructive solutions for this problem. But I wanted people to feel something, but I also wanted them to feel positive and feel hope and like excitement about what Compassion First is doing. So that's why I chose this music. This track is called, is from a band that we work with here at Palau called Building 429. They totally rock hard. You got to check them out. Building429.com. They're outstanding musicians. But they had this track called Grace That Is Greater, and it's kind of got a, Chris, how about let's hear a bit and then describe it for me.
I'm part of Go Glam Stop Traffic.
My name is Vicki.
How would you describe that?
In my opinion, that song's kind of upbeat. It does convey hope, like you said. When it gets quieter, it's kind of, you hear the underlying tone of, this is the solution, this is what we're doing, and this is what you can do too.
Cool.
So that's what I like
awesome.
about that song.
That's cool. Yeah, and you didn't even watch the whole thing. So good job, Chris. So you see, what I'm doing is I'm doing some establishing. So like I found these. The photographer did this cool thing. He just shot all these girls standing in the hall, saying their name, and then saying "Go Glam." They each did that. So I decided when I heard that that music, this. Boom. So it's got a quick beat to it, and it's just that fun, bright feeling. So to me, it suggested, hey, let's take this and make some quick cuts and kind of go MTV style, and just do something really, really quick. And then I also added a lot of lighting effects. So like you see this here, this is just kind of a, you can get a lot of these online if you look for flares and glows, or bokeh, B-O-K-E-H. I always misspell it and spell bokeh, like or whatever. But so you see here, here's a glitter thing that's laying over that, and then here's another one, and then you can see the girls themselves. So the effect overall is you get these nice sparkly things. And again, let's face it, this is a girly video, you know, like we're men, you know, we like cool stuff, but at the same time, this is important too. What does the story need, and what does the audience need? What it like, and as an editor, as a filmmaker, or a designer, a communicator, you need to be able to go and put yourself in those shoes. Like, I'm not a girl, but I have daughters, and I understand. Trust me, I've had to play Barbies, you know, with my little girls. But you know, you kind of gotta inhabit that, and there's nothing. You need to be flexible, and you need to put yourself in your audience's shoes, and when you're learning about your subject and things like that. So I was able to do that for this piece, and it was fun. Now you also see how I threw some typography in there. Now all your editing tools are going to have some what we call titling abilities. So I chose this font. This font it looks like Cecilia to me. You can get a lot of great free fonts online. I definitely encourage you to do that. Just Google free fonts and you'll find some. If you go to Google Web Fonts, they have a ton of fonts now that are designed for online, for actually people who build websites like me, but you can actually download them and use them. So there's some great free font repositories out there. But I chose this one because it's easy to read. It's kind of, I wouldn't say feminine, but it's kind of classy. And I like it, and I use it a lot. I see it in a lot of magazines, like Real Simple. That's kind of where I was inspired by that, and I figured, hey, they know women. You know, it's like the Lifetime TV channel. So anyway, I threw some lighting effects in there, but what I did at the beginning was establish it, okay? And then you hear from them a little bit, and then we bring that audio up. And again, I want you to see this down here, where we brought that audio up to just take a breather. Like if you just go talk, back to back, that's boring. You need to break it up. You need to let people think. And you'll remember the first week, those of you who were with us, the first week when we played the clip of the guy and his dog that was dying. Really sad, but those scenes where he's just riding his bike, just thinking, like it gives you the chance to think, and you as a viewer, the chance to think and feel and just sort of be there, you know. And I think that's something that we need to be able to do as filmmakers. Okay, so on to the next thing. So we got that. So again, there's going back to that structure where I've got talk. I've got, hey, a little break. I want you to feel something. I'm bringing the music up. I'm adding a pause. I'm showing some other things. Okay, I'm getting outside there. Then again, some more talk. Some more music. Okay, and then some more. Here, we're going to hear from this person.
We just thought it was a great event, and it was one thing that we could definitely do.
Now the audio recorded was bad, and that was really hard to deal with. I was able to clean it up a little bit. I've got some tools here. Audio plugins, there's all kinds. The Vegas suite is really nice because you can use what's called VST plugins on Windows. There's all kinds of ones. Some of those are very expensive, but basically there's some things where you can reduce the noise, you can pull out hum, you can increase the loudness of something, which is not volume, but it's actually like how clear you can hear it. You can filter it out. You can bring down the high end or the low end or whatever. You can do what we call EQing. Like if you see this, here's an EQ right here. I could bring up. You can experiment with it, and it's very handy. So there's a lot you can do with audio. And I learned this from my boss, who was a radio guy. But audio matters really for communicating, for overall. Like it matters more than the way things look. If you can't get things to sound right, then they're not. It's not going to be an effective piece. And we'll get into audio recording techniques at some point. There's also, remember the Vimeo Film School. Go to that, and you'll also see some stuff on how to improve the quality of your audio, use microphones, things like that. Okay, so basically, hey, there's more talking, and you see how this is Bicky Lloyd, who did such a good job on camera. It's very impressive. I composited in a black, sort of a dark, it's actually like a coffee stain, but it's just a nice texture. I just needed something. And you'll see how I'm using photographs. I am a big fan of using photos instead of video in a lot of cases. I mean, look at that picture. Isn't that wonderful? It's just got a lot of character, and and it communicates a lot. Yeah, video could do that too, but you know what? Stills are great as filler. Like if you don't have good B-roll, use still images that, you know, because the cameras, they're really good. Look at the nice bokeh in the background there. You can see how blurry it is. It has all the characteristics of a really great photo. Not that the other ones, and look at that one. I love those colors. It's kind of got some purples in it, but it also captures that moment that you're gonna get to dwell on for a minute. So I mix those in liberally here in this case. Okay, so Vicky's telling her stuff. She's wrapping it up. Here's another sort of person that, you know, and I've been flexible with where I put the titles. I just kind of throw them around sometimes instead of all on the bottom, just trying to mix it up a little bit. And so here we're gonna watch this, and then we're gonna watch through the end. I try to finish strong, you know, just like you do in martial arts, finish strong. But at the same time, it's more like this is your last chance to influence this person, or to get them to feel something, or to think about something, or to take action. I try to think that every piece of communication that I do, whether it's a print design or a website, or if it's a video or a photograph, a slideshow, whatever, all of those things, you need to have a point. You know, you need to get them to do something. In this case, we're trying to get people to, well, actually, I don't know. Let's find out.
You've got to go glam. And if you are a makeup artist or a stylist, you've got to go glam.
You can be a girl's greatest advocate. Be a part of Go Glam Stop Traffic. For more information, visit compassionfirst.org or find us on Facebook at Go Glam Stop Traffic.
All right, and my technique for music is I'll get the intro of a music piece. I'll find a part that what we call traveling music, where you're just kind of, you know, you're going from one place to the other. You're strolling, you're moseying, you know, you're just kind of moving around, and that's what I'll call it traveling music. But then for the end, I'll grab the end of the song and kind of blend it into wherever that is. Now you'll notice this song has no words. It's an instrumental piece, and I suggest you go to the Vimeo music store to find some of those. I found some really great stuff. Oops, not that one. I'm going to show you something really quick. And we're going to pause while I do that. The Vimeo music store, and I was looking for something that I think I played this for some of you guys, but I was looking for something for my reel. Good stuff. So, but anyway, the key is that these are instrumental pieces. You can use, you know, some song from iTunes or whatever, but I don't recommend that, because I think it's just not going to be as effective. Because if someone's talking underneath someone else talking, you know, in the background, that's going to get really distracting for your listeners. So I'm going to wrap this up. I just wanted to kind of give you a feel for the editing process here, and to show you a finished piece. And this is one that I spent about a day on. I tried to move pretty quickly through it, you know, partially to honor the client's budget, to honor their budget, but also to just to get it done and get it done quickly. Now, you know, it's nice to have a tool like Final Cut 10 and to know how to use it, because you can do some really great things. But really, some of these fundamental things are things you can do with any video editing tool. Again, the fundamentals of music underlying your story, of letting the music come up every now and then. Like sometimes you'll want to actually bring in like a piece of the chorus. Like if you have a piece that has, you know, words and things like that in it, then yeah, great, bring it in these little sections and let that go and show some stuff. You know, you know, show what's happening, you know, or show some photos or media that you have. And I like to wrap it up with the end of the song, or with something that's going to come to some kind of, as we say in music, is going to resolve. Like the music's going to sort of come to a conclusion. So listen to this.
Or find us on Facebook at Go Glam Stop Traffic.
That whole da da, and you can kind of see it. You kind of hear it right through here, and you'll see how I kind of boosted it a little bit right at the end there, so that you could, right as soon as she's done talking, it's back to that. Now, one other technique before we wrap up today is called the L cut, and you'll see that happen right here. And I want to zoom in a bit, and I want you to focus on the audio. So let's just see audio for now. Okay. Now what I've got is I've got the music going on, and I've got this B-roll playing. See the B-roll here? It's this clip here, and it's the girls working on this stuff. But you hear this other person start to talk. That's what this is. Okay. So here you're gonna notice you're gonna hear her before you see her.
Salon. It was really exciting helping Compassion First get girls out of sex trafficking in Indonesia.
What we've done, that's called an L or a J cut, depending on which way you look at it. Basically, the idea is you're hearing something or somebody before you see it, and that's an effective technique to lead you in. You know, it would have been more. It just would have been boring if you had finished your little music clip, stop the B-roll, and then you start to hear her. You know, it's kind of like it's getting your brain ready for what you're going to see next. So it's an effective technique. You can do a lot with that. In fact, I'm probably going to do that with Chelsea's thing when she's going into talking about the voiceover only. Yeah, the voiceover where you're seeing her. Like I'm going to start showing B-roll before that, especially because she does that cute little thing with her lips. Sorry to pick on you, Chelsea. I know you're doing your best, but it was just adorable, and I had to mention it. So, but I'm sure you won't do that next time, right? So that's one thing that I'm going to do is kind of cover that with some stuff like this, some B-roll, and so we're gonna show some Indonesia stuff. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to show you today. Now is the chance where Chris gets to ask any questions he wants. What do you think, man? What do you got questions about?
So where did you say you usually got the things like the shiny stuff on that beginning part?
Yeah, great question. Like great question. Well, the first thing I would do is go to some place like Vimeo, which you see right here, and I might search for bokeh. I always want to put a Y there. So you might say bokeh or glow lights. Let's look for that. Okay. So, hey, here you go. Now, with Vimeo, it's a little bit better. They let you download stuff. Large dust particles. That looks pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, look, they've even got a background. Alpha channel included. That's kind of nice. This one looks synthetic. It looks like they want you to buy it. So in some cases, they want you to buy it. That's true. Let's see, what else do we have? Glow. Let's look for some other words like sparkly. Sparkly bokeh. Oh yeah, here we go. Riverside lights. Hey, there's the cool stuff. That's sparkly bokeh. Let's look for just bokeh. I bet you'll get a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, I think this is one of the clips that I actually used. Yeah. Well, I was kind of hoping Marilyn Monroe was coming out here tonight, but I didn't hear any rules and odds, so I think it. That's one example, and it's crazy. But if you'll let's see here, I've got a whole pile of them in here. I've been collecting them for years, so let's see if I have a GFX folder. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, you see all kinds of stuff. Sparkly bokeh. I got all kinds of clips. Yeah, all kinds of things like what we call film burns, you know, things that can just add texture. It's kind of fun. So there's definitely some libraries. You can purchase some if you're really into that, but you know, I've kind of been collecting them for years. Here's some nice like sort of glow techniques, glow clips, things like that. That one's got some nice grain and texture to it. The thing is, like, you know, digital videos, it looks so perfect these days. It's kind of like we need to junk it up a little bit, you know, and so I've kind of done that on a few pieces. Okay, I think that's about it for today. Yeah, there's a lot more we could cover, obviously, but this really does, I think, cover some of the fundamentals of editing as far as assembling. You know, just to recap, it's like, start with the story, like the people saying things or the key clips that show what's happening, and arrange those on a timeline. So you might want, some people like to think on a timeline, like my boss, he loves to actually, like, I kind of like having a written script, but he likes to actually get it on there and listen to it repeatedly and think about it. And that's what some of the other greats do as well, is they kind of play around with it. This medium is very plastic. You can push it around like silly putty. It's very, just dragging stuff around is really easy. And it's easier than it's ever been. So you don't have to wait to render and things like that. It's kind of nice. So I would encourage you, as you start to think about assembling your story, get the big important parts, and then you kind of add some little gaps for music. Bring in the music, find the right music piece, or pieces. If it's a longer piece, you might need a couple. Bring in some longer pieces, and then start to work, and really just work on that. So you've got the basic stuff. It's ugly. It doesn't have to be, if you're green screen stuff, it doesn't have to be composited. You don't have to color correct stuff. It just has to be there. And you want to get them arranged right, and then you can start going back and adding B-roll and things like that. So you kind of see how I did that here. So like, what's the fundamental clips? Well, it's this right here. These are the important things right here, these important clips. Everything else is sort of, everything on above it is sort of filler, okay? But if I just had these clips and this music, I've got a piece. Like that's the backbone of your work. So you want to start there. So I don't know where most of you guys are at as far as your own video projects. We've had a little bit of an interval between classes, but I hope next week to follow up with you, and I encourage you to participate in the Vimeo film group. Be looking around Vimeo for great examples. If you just go to the Vimeo homepage, there's all kinds of great videos that can inspire you and give you some really cool ideas. So I'd encourage you to do that. If you are ready to start editing, then start putting stuff in a computer or your iPad or your phone and start pushing them around and playing with them. Listen to it, get into the music, whatever music you do. Let music can really help you out with your story. It can give your piece a real feeling and a real emotional component that isn't going to be there without it. So I encourage you to learn about how to educate yourself as a music editor. That's all we have for this week, so I encourage you to participate online, and I look forward to seeing you at the next AIM High video class. Thanks, Chris. Glad you're here.